Guys, this is serious. This is serious. It's serious now. I made a visual aid. Hello, people of the earth and internet. I'm Magical Molly, and today we're talking about a bear of very little brain, but very big heart. The camera is angled differently than I usually do for these because I needed to put this here. I put a lot of time and effort into it. I'm realizing you can barely fucking see it. This is the timeline of Pooh. We'll be getting into it. Today, we are getting into everything Winnie the Pooh. Willy nilly silly old bear. I've spent months compiling my notes, researching everything I could Winnie the Pooh. And I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, Molly, you read and watched every piece of Winnie the Pooh media? No, I didn't. I watched the majority of it though, but like some of the more recent TV shows are literally made for toddlers and I just didn't have it in me. I do like children's media, but it can only go so far. Thank you so much for watching my channel, by the way. Make sure you subscribe so you can get all the weird deep dive content. Anyway, let's get into it. Winnie the Pooh has been around for 101 years. And over that century, the franchise has estimated over $80.3 billion. So getting into the timeline of Pooh, here I've put what I think are some of the major points in the course of Pooh's history. But I am going to be getting in deep to a lot of the movies, book, media and culture reception, how the books came to be, and all that. There is so much Winnie the Pooh content that I'm just not going to go in depth into every goddamn thing in this video because I don't want to do it, you don't want to hear it. I'll be like, and then this year this came out, but we're not going to like get into it. We're only talking about the things that I personally feel are the most important and the most influential to the Winnie Pooh-niverse, and clearly I am the word of authority on that. So
now where did that bear go?
In the mid-20th century, a successful British playwright named A.A. Milne began writing children's poems at the behest of his fellow contributor to the humor magazine The Punch, Rose Flyman. Did I say her name right? Maybe. In 1924, he then published his first complete book of children's poems called When We Were Young. A teddy bear modeled after one of Milne's own son's bears makes an appearance in this book. The bear's name is Edward Bear, not Pooh. We'll get into why it's called Pooh in a minute. So this book of poems was successful. I read the book. It's pretty mid, I'm not gonna lie. It took off, and thank God it did, honestly. Milne was encouraged by his wife Daphne to keep writing the stories, because ain't that just the way a woman has to get the man moving? But that brings us to 1926 and the first mark on the timeline of Pooh. The first full-length Winnie the Pooh novel comes out titled Winnie the Pooh.
He was a bear of very little brain.
It is explained why the bear is called Pooh and not Edward Bear, as he is in the poem in which he appears in When We Were Young. If you happen to have read another book about Christopher Robin, you may remember that he once had a swan, or the swan had Christopher Robin. I don't know which, and that he used to call the swan Pooh. So that's the thing too, is that there is a poem in When We Were Young that references a swan named Pooh, and then the teddy bear that is the design here on my shirt today and on everything you see that becomes Pooh was called Edward Bear, but we'll get into that more. We used to call the swan Pooh. That was a long time ago, and when we said goodbye, we took the name with us, as we didn't think the swan would want it anymore. Now, getting into it right here is the writing style A.A. Milne brings to the original Winnie the Pooh books that is so charming and works so well for children and older readers. Well, then Edward Bear, the bear referenced in When We Were Young, said that he would like an exciting name all to himself. Christopher Robin said at once, without stopping to think, that he was Winnie the Pooh, and he was. So, as I've explained the Pooh part, I will now explain the rest of it. You can't be in London for long without going to the zoo. There are some people who begin the zoo at the beginning called Way In and walk as quickly as they can past every cage until they get to the one called Way Out. But the nicest people go straight to the animal they love the most and they stay there. So when Christopher Robin goes to the zoo, he goes to where the polar bears are, and he whispers something to the third keeper from the left, and the doors are unlocked, and we wander through dark passages and up steep stairs until at last we come to the special cage, and the cage is opened, and out trots something brown and furry, and with a happy cry of, "Oh, bear!" Christopher Robin rushes into its arms. Now, obviously that doesn't actually happen. That's hyperbolic, friends. That's a hyperbolic form of storytelling. There is actually a zoo when they went to, and there was a bear there, but like Christopher Robin didn't go hug the bear, because that's not how bears or zoos work. Now this bear's name is Winnie, which shows what a good name for bears it is. But the funny thing is, we can't remember whether Winnie is called after Pooh or Pooh after Winnie. We did know once, but we have forgotten. He is Winnie the Pooh in his own book, the first in a series, and I'm gonna tell you a little summary of what happens in that book today. We start with this framing device of Christopher Robin dragging Edward Bear, he is still called Edward Bear at the beginning of the book, down the stairs and is like, "Dad, oh my God, tell us a story." So it's very popular in British literature of this era for the narrator themselves to be a character that is very invested in the story, either as like someone the characters in the story literally know, or just full on addressing the reader, a la something like Peter Pan or Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. But in this, the narrator we can assume like is Milne himself, because Christopher Robin himself is a character in the book. So then what follows is a series of vignettes that tell the stories and adventures of little Winnie the Pooh. We have him trying to steal honey from a bee's nest, and the bees aren't having it. He has Christopher Robin try to help him cover himself in mud to disguise himself as a rain cloud and to get up there and steal from the bees, and that doesn't work. Then like another vignette we get is Pooh shows up to Rabbit's house in search of honey because Pooh Bear loves honey, but he's all out, and Rabbit doesn't want to share honey because he's like, Pooh is a fucking glutton, get out of here. But he doesn't have the nerve to tell Pooh no, so Pooh just gorges himself on honey, tries to crawl out the hole of Rabbit's house, and his ass has just gotten so fat and he's stuck, and then he's stuck there for days, and they're like, we gotta wait till you get thinner to pull you out, because that's logic. Then it's Eeyore's birthday, and everyone's forgotten his birthday, and Eeyore's really depressed about it. Should I have told you who the characters of Winnie the Pooh were? First off, we've got, you guessed it, Winnie the Pooh. Pooh Bear is a bear of very little brain and very big heart, and he loves honey, and he loves his friends, and his bestest friend in the whole wide world is Christopher Robin. Then we have my favorite, Tigger. Tigger is a tiger, and he likes to bounce on his bouncy, prouncy, flouncy tail, and he loves pouncing on people. It's very fun. He is the epitome of a kid with ADHD. I relate to him very deeply, and he likes to think he's brave, but he still kind of gets scared sometimes. He's very off the walls, over the top. Then we have Piglet. I would say Piglet is kind of like, when I was a kid, I did think Piglet was a girl and that Pooh and Piglet were a couple. And even though I now know Piglet's a boy, I think they're still a couple. It does make sense if you really think about it. Piglet is very cowardly and nervous, but still has a really big heart. Piglet loves acorns and cleaning and Pooh Bear. We have Rabbit. Rabbit's my #1 op. I can't fucking handle it with that guy. I also thought Rabbit was a girl when I was a kid. I don't know, something about Rabbit's giving Karen. Rabbit's very into gardening, very into micromanaging everybody in the 100-acre wood, very into shaming Pooh for his honey consumption, and Tigger for his pouncing enjoyment. It's fucked anyway. Eeyore. A lot of people know about Eeyore. Eeyore has major depressive disorder. He lives in a stick hut. I don't know why he can't just get a house like everyone else, and why no one else gets him a house. Everyone else lives in trees, and there's like hollowed out trees. Tigger and Owl live in like tree houses, but like there's a lot of trees. I don't know why we can't help Eeyore out with that one, but I don't know. But Eeyore still loves everybody and loves to be included. He's just a drowsy kind of guy. We have Owl, who nobody likes. Then we have Christopher Robin, who's the one human, and he comes and goes from the 100-acre wood, and Pooh is his bestie, but he is friends with everybody, and everyone just fucking worships Christopher Robin. He is their messiah. Whenever he comes to the 100-acre wood, everyone is like falling over themselves. And then we have Kanga, the one woman in the 100-acre wood, and her son Roo. I'm to understand that these characters, right, are named after A.A. Milne's son's characters, of his actual plushies that he took out into this forest near their house and played with them. We now know why Pooh is called Winnie the Pooh, but then like Tigger, that's close to tiger, and then Rabbit's just called Rabbit, Piglet's just a baby looking pig called Piglet, Owl's just called Owl. Eeyore, I don't know where that name came from, so I don't know why Eeyore and Pooh are the only ones who got like original names. Now, also, you need to understand that you can't question the logistics of this universe too much, because are they alive stuffed animals that were like loved so much by Christopher Robin that they came to life Velveteen Rabbit style, or are they actual animals? Or is none of this happening and we're just watching what Christopher Robin sees in his head when he plays it out? The way I view it is they're stuffed animals that he loved so much they came to life Velveteen Rabbit style. Because otherwise, you know, like, why is their fluff falling out? Why are they still literally drawn and then later animated to still look like stuffed animals instead of real bears? But that's what I think. Anyway, let's get back into the plot. So then after Eeyore being depressed at his birthday, we have this bit where like fall is turning into winter. Piglet and Pooh talk about heffalumps and woozles, which is elephants and weasels. I did try to do research into why that was the thing that everybody was scared of in the 100-acre wood. Like, they all live in fear of the heffalumps and woozles. And I was like, why? And where did that term come from? And I tried to look into it. I couldn't really find any conclusive answers. I'm gonna guess maybe that's just how actual real life little kid Christopher Robin said elephants and weasels. And maybe he was afraid of them. I don't know. I couldn't find any concrete answers. But they're scared of heffalumps and woozles. There's never any evidence that those are real things hanging out in the 100-acre wood. Rabbit is like really pissed about 𝐭∞ and 𝐸 moving to the 100-acre wood because they like move there in this book. So I guess then we can understand that to be Christopher Robin just got those toys and loved them and they came to life. And Rabbit's being like really xenophobic and wants them to leave and concocts this whole plan to swap 𝐸 out of 𝐭∞'s pouch with Piglet to like teach her a lesson, but then she ends up just tormenting Piglet, making him like take a bath and take his medicine, and then 𝐸's just like vibing with everybody else, and then Rabbit's like, I guess I'll stop being xenophobic and they can live here. This monsoon basically hits the 100-acre wood, everyone's homes flood, Piglet's home completely floods. Piglet writes a message in a bottle that's like, my house is flooding, help. And Pooh finds the message and is like, we gotta go save Piglet, and so he does. And then Christopher Robin's like, oh my god, let's have a hero party for Pooh. Then Eeyore shows up and thinks it's his party, which doesn't really make much sense, and no one ever really has the nerve to tell Eeyore when he's wrong, because I guess he's already on the brink of being suicidal, so they're like, let's not push it. And then we cut back to the framing device of real life Christopher Robin and Edward Bear, and they're like, great story, Dad, and they go up to bed. Next up in 1928, book 2, The House at Pooh Corner.
Everyone's scared of tigers.
And in this book, we get introduced to my guide Tigger. So yes, he actually does not make an appearance until book 2. So Pooh goes out to find Piglet, starts making up a little song, and then when he gets to Piglet, he's like, I just dropped some bars, let's go sing them to Eeyore. They also call where Eeyore lives Eeyore's gloomy place. I don't know if Eeyore titled it that himself or if they titled it that for him, but if it's the latter, that's rude and offensive, and they need to be better mental health allies. So they're sitting on a fence, and Pooh's like, Piglet, I've been thinking, Eeyore doesn't have a house, and the rest of us have houses. We should remedy that. Yeah. Good idea. So they're like, we'll build him a house out of sticks. So they go looking for sticks in this corner, and they're like, okay, yeah, we'll build them here and we'll call it Pooh Corner because I, Pooh, discovered the corner. They go looking for sticks. They find a big stack of sticks and they're like, perfect. And they take them all, they bring them back to Pooh Corner, and they build the house. Later they run into Christopher Robin and Eeyore's like, yeah, my house moved. He was like, I built a house because it was so cold out and now it's gone. My house is made of sticks, I left it over there. And they're like, oh shit. Instead of like owning up to what they did, they're just like, oh, you know what? I think the wind moved your house over here to Pooh Corner. And Eeyore's like, wow, that's crazy. End of that. Tigger comes to town, wakes Pooh up in the middle of the night and is like, what's up? I just moved to the neighborhood. Nice to meet you. Then he's like, I need breakfast. And Pooh's like, okay, let's find you some breakfast. And then Tigger's sensory issues come into full swing and he can't decide what he wants for breakfast. Pooh takes him to and fro to everybody's house to see if their breakfast offerings work for him. So they go to Piglet, and Piglet loves acorns. And Tigger's like, yeah, I would love a acorn. Doesn't like it. He tries Pooh's honey. He doesn't like it. He gets to Eeyore. He tries the thistles. He doesn't like it. They get to 𝐭∞ and 𝐸, and 𝐭∞ has enough food to feed Tigger. And then like Tigger and 𝐸, they start vibing because they're both like, yes, bouncing energy. We love to see it. It's like Tigger loved 𝐸 and everything so much that he just moves in with 𝐭∞. And then that's not how it goes in any of the movies. So much little vignettes in these books that they were able to use them for multiple movies and shows. But that's the vibe of the Winnie the Pooh books. 1932, Winnie the Pooh makes his first radio debut on a U.S. radio broadcast to over 40,000 schools by the American School of the Air, the education division of the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Is that you, Piglet?
Next up, we have the next big event on the timeline of Pooh. 1956, A.A. Milne dies. Very sad. 4 years prior, he had a stroke that left him partially paralyzed, and then he later passed away. Pour one out. What a real one. It is sad that he didn't get to live a little bit longer to see what is coming up next on the timeline and what Winnie the Pooh became. Also that year, 1956, RCA Records released 4 stories of Winnie the Pooh, narrated by Jimmy Stewart. In 1961, Disney acquires the production rights to Winnie the Pooh, as well as the television and merchandising rights. 1964, Disney's animation team begins work on a bunch of little Winnie the Pooh short films, starting with Winnie Pooh and the Honey Tree, which tells the vignette story from the first chapter of the first Winnie the Pooh book. They were originally trying to just come out the gate with a feature-length story for Winnie the Pooh to release. That didn't pan out at first, so they were making the little short films that then they would play before other movies. And so there are a lot of like old Winnie the Pooh short films that didn't like make it into any big feature-length film that you can still watch on YouTube, like Winnie the Pooh Discovers the Seasons. And they're fine, they're cute. The quality is very grainy. Then coming along in 1977, one of the biggest events in the timeline of Pooh, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the feature-length film by Walt Disney Studios, comes out. So this is an anthology of some of the previously released short films. So it is a film made of vignettes with a little bonus chapter at the end that kind of ties it all together. And all the movies afterwards have this great theme song. It's so good. It's such a bop. We love it. It also has this great framing device where they're like, you're in the room of Christopher Robin, an ordinary boy with his toys and blah, blah, blah. And the storybook of Winnie the Pooh opens. And the narrator is very much this omnipotent character. So The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh starts with Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, which is the same way the first book starts, which I already kind of gave you the gist of Pooh trying to steal honey from the bees, and the bees are not fucking having it. He tries to get Christopher Robin roped into this, and Christopher Robin's down for the count. It still doesn't pan out. And as someone with a bee allergy, it's terrifying to watch how laissez-faire Pooh is with bees. They say, the narrator says that Pooh lives in a house under the name of Sanders. And then you see his house, which is just like a hollowed out tree, the way most of the characters in 100 Acre Woods houses. And it says Sanders over the door, so under the name of Sanders. I had a long time looking up why that is, and what I came to is it is a reference to real life Frank Sanders, who was a friend of the original illustrator E.H. Shepard and was a printer who worked on some of Milton's books. So it's a fun little nod, and I think that's cute. I love shit like that. Before Pooh goes out to fuck with the bees, he does his morning exercises and he sings his little song.
I am stout, round, and I have found, speaking poundage-wise, I improve my appetite when I exercise.
So then after Pooh fucks around with the bees and he doesn't get any honey from that tree, he goes to rabbits, and then that story comes into play where he just turns into like a fat fuck and can't get out the door. Now, what didn't make a wealth of sense in this, and it was the same way in the book, is Rabbit then goes out the back door to get help from Christopher Robin, and Christopher Robin's first solution is maybe we try pushing Pooh back in, and then Rabbit's like, no, he can't come back in. But I'm like, could he not come back in and go out the back door? But then it's like, don't think too deep about these things. Rabbit doesn't want to have to look at Pooh's ass for several days just hanging out the rabbit hole. So he starts like drawing a face on like Pooh's butt and like decorating it and things. I didn't like that. I thought that was disrespectful as a kid, and I thought it was disrespectful now. Now the movie has this additional character in this vignette named Gopher. I don't fuck with Gopher. I don't like him. He really takes me out of it because, and I'll get more into this as we go on when Pooh media starts to get bigger in America. As someone who is down with my nation's culture and can find the Brits to be very annoying sometimes with the way they sneer at Americans, I will say this is a form of media. This is a story that cannot be Americanized and still work. Winnie the Pooh very much needs to stay British. It needs to stay English. And Gopher is a very Americanized character that Disney put in there, and they said it was to like connect to the American audience, which is insane because it's not even like the characters have British accents. Like it doesn't even make sense. And Gopher is so fucking annoying and pops up out of nowhere and says he's basically gonna like he can help get Pooh out by trying to blow up Rabbit's home, and Rabbit's like, no, and then Gopher leaves. Pooh gets thin finally, which again, don't think too hard about how that makes any sense. Then like Christopher Robin and everybody, they have like a little marching parade to be like, yay, Pooh's not fat anymore. We can get him out of the hole. And it's like, all right. Something you notice too throughout these Winnie the Pooh movies is the ones that Christopher is in, because he starts not being in all of them after a while. I think the writers were like, nobody cares about that. They're always like, I'll go get Christopher Robin. He'll know what to do. And then Christopher Robin proceeds to never know what the fuck to do. His solutions are little to non-existent, but I guess because he's the like one human they got on call. So yeah, his big solution was let's wait it out. Then we go to Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. This is a pretty iconic one. If you remember, it follows pretty much the same plot as the book. Like the rain blowing the letters off the pages and everything. The main difference here from the book is that Owl's house gets destroyed, and Eeyore says he'll go find Owl a new house, and then leads Owl to Piglet's house. And I was like, yeah, this can be Owl's house. And again, instead of like how at the book, no one had the nerve to tell him it wasn't his party. No one has the nerve to tell him that that's Piglet's house. I guess Piglet's just going to resign himself to homelessness. But then Pooh's like, no, Piglet, you can live with me because they're in love. And then that doesn't remain canon for any Winnie the Pooh movie or show going forward. And again, in the movie, Tigger doesn't live with Kanga and Roo. Speaking of Tigger, we also have the little vignette where Tigger comes to visit the Heffalumps and Woozles. He shows up in the middle of the night and is like, what up, I'm Tigger. Tells Pooh about Heffalumps and Woozles. And then Pooh keeps guard all night because he's worried Heffalumps and Woozles are gonna come and get him in his sleep. And that's when a real nightmare-inducing sequence played, if you recall it, from childhood.
Beware, 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 beware. A heffalump or woozle is very confusal. A heffalump or woozle's very sly, sly, sly.
With the Tigger vignette is like, Rabbit is sick of Tigger's bullshit because Rabbit hates like the pouncing and everything that Tigger does. Because apparently Rabbit is ableist against people with ADHD. I'm just kidding. Rabbit probably is OCD. There's probably some Tumblr think piece from like 2011 about how like everybody is a reference to a mental illness. I mean, we can obviously say Eeyore is depressed, and I will say Tigger has ADHD. Rabbit is a bitch, but that's not. So Rabbit is talking to Pooh and Piglet, and he's like coming up with this dumb fucking plan where he's like, we'll walk Tigger into the woods, into the mist, purposely ditch him, let him be lost for a day, and then we'll come rescue him, and then he'll be so grateful that he won't want to pounce on us anymore. One, that's fucked up. What a shitty friend. Two, that doesn't make any sense. Why would getting lost in the woods then make you never want to do the one thing you love most, which is pouncing and bouncing? It doesn't. The math doesn't math. It's not clocking to you, Rabbit, that Tigger is standing on business. Try to do that. I don't like that Piglet and Pooh are passive as fuck and just go along with it. Who knows where the hell Kangaroo and Owl are and Christopher Robin. You know Kanga wouldn't fuck with this bullshit. She has no nonsense about it, but whatever. Then Rabbit's lost in the mist and can't get anybody fucking out of there. Pooh and Piglet go their own way. Rabbit gets fucking lost. Tigger is on it and he rescues everybody. So in your fucking face, Rabbit. It's like wintertime and Tigger and Roo are gonna go bouncing out in the snow. There's also this thing in the movies where Tigger almost acts like he has a crush on Kanga. Like Kanga will call him like dear, and he'll be like, oh my god, she called me dear.
Good morning, Tigger dear.
She called me dear.
And it's like, as a romance author, I'll ship anyone with anyone in any kind of media. As a child, I was fully thinking that Piglet and Pooh were in love, so Tigger and Kanga can be in love too, why not? Anyway, him and Roo go a bouncing and a pouncing. They bounce all the way up this tree and they bounce up too high, and then Tigger is scared of heights and he cannot get down. But don't worry, the gang comes by and Christopher Robin for once has a fucking solution. They're gonna hold out this blanket and then Roo and Tigger can jump out of the tree and land on the blanket and they'll catch them. Roo does it, Tigger is still too scared, and he starts promising like the powers that be, or God, I guess, that he will never pounce again if he gets down. And Rabbit's like, never pounce again, you say? Rabbit's like, yeah, narrator, help us out. And so then the narrator tips the book so Tigger can slide on out of the tree. And then Tigger is like immediately depressed because he's never going to be able to pounce again because he's a man of his word. And the Rabbit's like, God, fine, I guess I'll stop being an ableist fuck and you can pounce again. We have a little additional closing chapter. Christopher Robin and Pooh have a little heart-to-heart, and Christopher Robin tells Pooh that he's going to be leaving the 100-acre wood to go start school because summer is over, you know, because we went through all the seasons. Again, that doesn't make a wealth of sense because like he was still showing up when it was like winter and fall, but Pooh says never forget me, and you know, it's really cute, it's really wholesome. End of the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
All of them are proceeding in company.
In 1982, the nonfiction book The Tao of Pooh by Benjamin Hoff comes out. Now my mom has this. I don't know where. Somewhere in this house. There's so many books in this house. I didn't even try to go find that one. It took us days to find The House at Pooh Corner. I did actually read that as a kid because she read it and I was like, oh my god, I want to be spiritually enlightened. And so I read it. I don't remember anything. I couldn't tell you anything, and I had no energy to reread it for this. It tended to be an introduction to the Eastern belief of Taoism through the philosophies of the characters in Winnie the Pooh. And I'm not gonna lie, I do like when people use Winnie the Pooh to get philosophical.
To the honey tree.
Next thing on the list, 1983. Welcome to Pooh Corner. Disturbing live-action TV show debuts. Did I watch this? I watched the first episode and I did not care for what I was looking at.
I'm not
very good at saying no. Could you show me how?
Here's how. Say no. Stop that. It's not okay with me. No, don't do that. I have the right to see.
I think the people who made Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared probably really liked this show. We're moving right along to another stop on the timeline, 1988. The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh premieres on the Disney Channel in America. Now let's get into this. This is where we're really gonna talk about the Americanization of Winnie the Pooh. As a child, I fucking loved that show. Now we didn't have Disney Channel, but as a kid, because it wasn't part of basic cable, and we didn't have a lot of, money. It would air on like ABC Family and stuff, and then we also had some VHS tapes of it, and I loved it. I loved the theme song, I loved the vibes. I revisited it as a grown-up on Disney Plus, and let me tell you, it's not good and it does not hold up. It immediately does not feel like Winnie the Pooh. I'm immediately taken out of it. The vibes, the aesthetic, the tone, out the window. Right out the gate, Gopher is a reoccurring character. Get the fuck out. Also, everyone's just like more of a dick in this version. Like literally the first episode is Rabbit like trying to gaslight Pooh into thinking he's moving because he doesn't want to share honey anymore. Just like this malice to it. Also just gets so ridiculous to a degree that again is like, because Winnie the Pooh already requires a pretty ridiculous suspension of disbelief. That obviously is easier for a child to give than an adult, but it's still there because the idea is they're just playing make-believe. In this one, they're like out in the real world with Christopher Robin. They like go to the movies with him, and there's like a Wild West episode where it gets like weirdly dark because they literally make a joke that like Pooh is gonna like get arrested and get hanged.
Looks like there's gonna be a swinging.
A swinging. Oh, how wonderful.
What?
I said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait, first of all, you're not gonna speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
And just having them go all out and about all over the place as if they're his imaginary friends instead of his stuffed animals that he loves so much they came to life in the 100-Acre Wood doesn't make sense. It doesn't track because here in the 100-Acre Wood where Christopher Robin plays, you'll find the enchanted neighborhood of Christopher's childhood days. It's right there.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
Also, Tigger's like a dick in the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. He's just an asshole. Like, everyone being annoyed at him is actually fucking warranted. So I really don't care for the New Adventures. It did run for 4 seasons. But again, it's not a direct adaptation of anything. Like, no elements of the books really show up in it. And when I get into the later Winnie the Pooh films, they do take from the books and kind of expand on the books. And this does it. Now, one really important thing that the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh gave us is Jim Cummings. Jim Cummings became the official voice henceforward from 1988 to today for Winnie the Pooh and for Tigger, and he's incredible. And did I contact him twice, reaching out to him to try to get him to be in the video? Yes, and I didn't hear back. Jim, come on. Willy, why would Jim Cummings come in your video? I don't know. It doesn't hurt to aim big. I got Scottish scholar Dr. Anna Groundwater to be in her story. So you never know.
As long as we're apart together.
Then we get some holiday specials. In 1991, we get Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2. These specials feature Gopher. He's in there, and I hate it. And it just, I don't know, it ruins the vibe. 1996, another holiday special, Boo to You, Winnie the Pooh. I'm just gonna say it's not good. 1997, Winnie the Pooh's Grand Adventure, The Search for Christopher Robin comes out. This is a lot of people's favorite. I thought it was a little too long and a little boring. So it starts with like the way that the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh ended, which I do think was like a good through line. Christopher Robin's like, I have to tell you something. And Pooh says, is it something nice? And Christopher Robin's like, not really. And Pooh's like, then bitch, it can wait. Later, they're hanging in a tree and Christopher Robin asks Pooh what would happen if a day came where they weren't together. And then we get the really iconic line that you see in like graduation cards a lot.
You're braver than you believe, and stronger than you seem. And smarter than you think.
Drop bars, that's a good one. The next day, Pooh wakes up and he has a pot of honey with a note on it. But Pooh doesn't know how to read, and so he can't read the note, and he doesn't know whose pot of honey this is. And he doesn't want to take someone's pot of honey that isn't his. Which, like, that's nice. He'll still go and, like, kind of guilt people into giving him honey and harass bees for their honey, but apparently, and obviously gift-wrapped pot of honey for him on his doorstep is not reading. He's a bear of very little brain. So he goes to Christopher Robin's house, because Christopher Robin has, like, a house in the 100-Acre Wood, in some of these movies, but and it's another tree. And again, it's like, so I guess that's just a house that Christopher Robin hangs out in when he's playing in the 100-Acre Wood, and that's not like actually his house. Because he can't live in the 100-Acre Wood. That doesn't make sense. So Pooh goes to Christopher Robin's house and to see if he knows whose honey it is, and Christopher's not there. And then he realized that the paper on the honey is a note, but again that he can't read the note. And so he tries to go find someone who can read it. He goes to Rabbit and is like, yo, can you read this? And Rabbit totally pretends that he can. No, Rabbit's gender. Rabbit totally thinks he can read it, but he can't because it's all covered in honey. So they're like, we'll go to Owl, because everyone seems to think Owl is smart, and Owl's not. Owl's a posturing fucking idiot. Obviously, Owl reads it wrong because he's a fucking idiot. That's something to remember. Because of how bad Owl has read it, they think that Christopher Robin has gone somewhere horrible called Skull. They need to go find him. And Owl makes them this bullshit map. It's like, follow this to Skull. And then Rabbit deems himself in charge. There's also songs in this. Some of the Winnie the Pooh movies are musicals. I don't always think that works. I think we're trying to fill the runtime. This one did have like a whole song that Owl sang. I did fast forward through because I was like, I can't be hearing this. Then they go on their quest, their adventure. They wander all over the 100-Acre Wood. They don't know where the fuck they're going because they're not going anywhere. They're not going to anything. And then whenever someone, while they're wandering, gets scared or anxious, Pooh is fighting for his life to remember that banger line that Christopher Robin said, that you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. But Pooh, he's not getting it. He keeps fucking it up, and everyone's like, are you high? What are you talking about, Pooh? Then they end up in a cave full of crystals. Why? I don't know. It really goes off the rails at that point. They get separated. It's getting real Goonies with all the booby traps and things that are happening. But then they realize, they're all like, oh, Piglet's like, I was braver than I thought, and like Rabbit's like, I'm smarter than I think, but you're not. Rabbit, shut the fuck up. They get out of the Crystal Skull Cave. Christopher Robin shows up. He's in his school uniform. He's like, you silly guys. The note said that I have to go to school, and I will be back in the afternoon. And Pooh, enjoy the honey. 1998, Winnie the Pooh Thanksgiving. This was a thing in the 90s. Just every holiday they dropped a special, which in theory makes sense, but then the specials weren't good. So, 1999, Seasons of Giving. Also, 1999, we get Winnie the Pooh, A Valentine for You. This is the only one I think is remotely tolerable. It's still not great because Gopher is there, running his mouth. The year is 2000 and a groundbreaking film in the Winnie the Pooh franchise comes out. The Tigger movie. So it starts with the same, like, we're in Christopher Robin's, like, live-action nursery, and the book pops up. Tigger tells the narrator, like, can we stop always focusing on Pooh? There are other people in the 100-Acre Wood. And the narrator's like, good point, good point. Let's begin the Tigger movie, besties. So the Tigger movie is one of the ones I cried at. Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's a really good film. If you're gonna watch any Winnie the Pooh movie after this, besides like the first one, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, because that's a perfect film, I would watch the Tigger movie. Tigger is going around bouncing, asking everyone if they want to bounce with him. Everybody's busy doing other shit. They don't want to. They're trying to like help Eeyore rebuild his house, and Tigger's getting really depressed about it. Tigger accidentally bounces on a branch that comically knocks a boulder off a hill, and that boulder crushes Eeyore's house. Kangaroo, Piglet, Rabbit, and Pooh come to try and like move the boulder and fix Eeyore's house in the wake of this destruction. Tigger comes over and is like, I'll do my special whoop-de-bounce move to bounce the boulder off of the sticks so we can rebuild Eeyore's house. So doing his whoop-de-bounce, it works, but it messes up this like rock moving contraption that Rabbit was building, and it knocks everybody into the mud. Rabbit's like bitching at Tigger about his bouncing. Tigger's like, I thought y'all liked my bouncing, and Pooh and Piglet confess that they can't bounce like Tigger, and they don't always want to bounce like Tigger, and that's kind of like a him thing and not a them thing. So Tigger feels like very depressed and isolated by this information that nobody shares his love of bouncing, and in fact, some of them, especially Rabbit, seem to like resent the bouncing. Tigger's on a bridge. He's sad. Roo goes over to Tigger on the bridge to talk to him. Roo really looks up to Tigger. That kind of becomes a through line in the post-2000 Winnie the Pooh films. And Tigger's like, well, it's really sad because there's just nobody like me, so I can't really relate to anybody. And he's like, that's part of the song. The most wonderful thing about Tigger is I'm the only one. Roo's like, well, don't you have a family? Which is a weird question, because none of them have family, if you think about it. Like Rue has 𝐤𝐤𝐥𝐤, but like that's it. They're stuffed animals that were loved into sentient existence. In the book, Rabbit will like mention that he has acquaintances, and in the movies, Owl is always referencing like bitches he knew at university or something. Is that essentially just like AI backstory that Christopher Robin gave them? Tigger's like, maybe I have family out there. Maybe there's a whole bunch of Tiggers. Now it's interesting that his name is also his species, but then it's like, would all their names be Tigger? No. Is Eeyore the only one that's not named just what he is? Yeah. So then Tigger tells Roo that he needs to find his family tree, but he takes this to be a literal tree, and he says that the tree of the Tigger family will be the biggest, stripiest tree there is. They need to go search for clues at his house to where the Tiggers are. Searching through Tigger's junk, trying to find a clue. It is getting a little delulu. Tigger like finds a sock and is like, maybe this was my uncle's, and it's like, Tigger, I need you to get a grip. Tigger then tells Roo that he'll teach him to do his special like whoop-de bounce. But when Roo fucks up the bounce, he crashes into the closet, and Tigger finds a necklace in there, and he's like, oh my god, it belonged to a family member. To lock it, they get it open, it's empty, Tigger is distraught. Roo has the idea that Tigger should write his family a letter inviting them to come visit. He does that and then just lets it go into the wind. So canonically, wind delivers mail in the 100-acre wood. Roo goes home and tells 𝐤𝐤𝐥𝐤 that he wishes Tigger could find his family so he wouldn't be so sad and lonely. Then Roo gets this great idea that they should all write Tigger a letter from his family. So Roo suggests forgery is the way to help their friend. They all go over to Owl's house and like brainstorm up a lie of a letter, and it's stupid, and they're all like, add this, add this, add this. They put that bad bitch into the wind, but Tigger gets it, and for some reason, even though it does not say this anywhere in the letter, Tigger is convinced his family must be coming to visit. He's like, oh, you gotta read between the lines. We Tiggers know how to do that. And everyone's like, fuck. So then Roo's like, I have an excellent idea. All of us should dress up as Tiggers, pretend to be Tigger's family, and go to his house for this family reunion. It's a real comedy of errors situation. A real banging number starts where they're all talking about how to be a Tigger and dressing up as Tiggers. Everyone except Rabbit, because fuck Rabbit. Rabbit's like, guys, there's a storm coming. There's a blizzard coming. We have to get ready for the blizzard. Like, winter is upon us. And they're all like, Rabbit, fuck off. We have to go pretend to be Tiggers. So they go to the family reunion, and they're all dressed up as Tiggers, and Tigger's put together this lovely party. He's very excited. They all are trying to bounce together. Roo tries to do the whoopity bounce and fucks it up, and their costumes come off. They've exposed the ruse, and Tigger misinterprets this, that sees it instead of them like really wanting to make him happy, albeit it was a very misguided, patronizing attempt. He thinks they're doing it to mock him. Tigger's like, well, forget you guys. I'll go find my family tree alone, and he heads off into the blizzard by himself to try to locate his family. Roo tells Pooh that he feels really guilty that he organized this whole scheme. Why we all listen to the child pitching on us that we should elaborately lie to our friend, I don't know. Pooh's like, yeah, you're right, and goes to 𝐤𝐤𝐥𝐤 and Eeyore and Piglet and is like, we should go find Tigger. We should go support him in his somewhat fruitless endeavor. So they go to Rabbit, and they're like, Rabbit, could you help us lead an expedition to go find Tigger? Nobody ever goes that far, though, because, like, you know, it's the 100-acre wood. It's 100 acres. It says it right there. Tigger finds the biggest, stripiest tree and is like, oh my god, finally, the Tiggers must be up here. He hops on up, but obviously there's no Tiggers up there, and Tigger is devastated. So the gang shows up at the base of the tree, and Tigger sees them walking up through the snow because the blizzard has begun. And at first he thinks it's his family coming home to the tree, but it's not. He sees that it is, you know, Pooh and Co. And he's like, well, what the hell are you guys doing out here? It's not safe to be out in a blizzard. And it's like, pot and kettle, my guy, pot and kettle. So Rabbit yells up to Tigger and is like, get your ass down here, we gotta go home. Tigger yells back that if they keep shouting, they're gonna cause an avalanche. So Rabbit yells at Tigger that they gotta go home. Tigger's like, no, I'm waiting for my family. Yip, yap, yapping, yelling. It causes an avalanche. Everyone's gonna die. The stakes are incredibly high. But Tigger does his bouncing, and he saves everybody and gets them up in a tree, but the avalanche, he doesn't like get himself up there in time. The avalanche washes him away. But don't worry, Roo does the whoop-de bounce that Tigger taught him, finally nails it, and is able to save Tigger. Owl and Kanga show up and are like, oh my god, there you guys are, thank god you're safe. And Christopher Robin shows up and is like, oh my god, what are y'all doing out here in the blizzard? And they're like, well, we went to help Tigger because he went to find his family. And Christopher Robin says, you didn't have to go searching everywhere for your family, Tigger. We're your family.
You fellas are my family. I'm afraid we have nothing better to offer. Well, of course not, Pooh Boy. 'Cause there's nothing better than the best. I should have seen it all along.
And then if you could listen really closely late in the night, you would hear me sobbing. 2002, Winnie the Pooh, A Very Pooh Year. 2003, Piglet's Big Movie. Now, I'm not like a huge Piglet fan. He definitely annoyed me more when I was a child. Rabbit is the only one who's remained my #1 op. So the Piglet movie is insane. Pooh, Rabbit, Tigger, and Eeyore are trying to harvest honey with a really dumb, convoluted plot. Piglet shows up, is like, what's good? What's everyone doing? They're like, Piglet, shut up. You're too little to help. We have a whole fucking plan. The plan goes awry. Piglet's the one to salvage everything, but the hubris of these assholes, they're like, oh, we knew our plan would work. So Piglet's bummed out by what dicks they're being, and he wanders off into the forest, and then everyone pulls their head out of their ass and is like, oh my god, where did Piglet go? Everybody be wandering around, and then they act like that's the worst fucking thing ever, and how will we ever find them? It seems like the 100-acre wood is like 5 streets. Don't get lost, because they never leave. They're trying to find Piglet, and they decide, let's go to his house, see if he's there. He's not there, but they find his book of memories, where Piglet's drawn all these little pictures about like lovely days that they all had together. So this is a framing device where we get to see some past moments in the 100-acre wood, where you can see that Piglet was underappreciated by the gang. Then get stories that are taken from the first 2 Winnie the Pooh books, and they're switched up a little bit to like make everyone be kind of like emotionally neglectful. And then we do the House at Pooh Corner story with them moving Eeyore's house, but they kind of rework the story that it's like Piglet's idea to like build Eeyore a house and like help Eeyore out, and then Pooh takes credit for the idea as opposed to in the book where it just is Pooh's idea. And so then it's like really fucked that he's calling it Pooh's Corner because like Piglet and him kind of collaborated on this whole plan together. Rabbit and Tigger start arguing about like the best way to go through these memories so they can like work their way back to figure out where Piglet might have gone in, you know, this finite space that they are always in all the time. And in doing so, they rip the book because they're fucking idiots. Walking around as they read through the memories, they've reached the bridge where everyone loves to play Pooh Sticks, which I didn't really go into. It's this stupid game. They drop all the pages of the memory book in the river, like a bunch of goddamn idiots. They've destroyed this wonderful memento of Piglets. They go back to Piglet's house and decide that they will draw pictures to commemorate Piglet's heroics and all the times that Piglet was very helpful and they underappreciated him. They head back out to find Piglet. They find the book with some of the pages still intact, teetering on the edge of like a tree branch over a cliff, because there's cliffs now in the 100-acre woods. So Pooh goes out to try to get it, but he falls, he's hanging by his shirt, they all kind of form a human chain, they're trying to reach, they just need a little bit more, but they can't get to it, and they're like, oh my god, whoever could help us, we need a little bit more. Piglet comes bursting out. Piglet is brave and runs out there and is able to grab Pooh, but then like the tree starts breaking and everybody kind of falls back except Pooh and Piglet, and for a few minutes, like obviously we the audience know that Pooh and Piglet are okay because like it's a Winnie the Pooh movie, but the rest of the gang full on thinks Pooh and Piglet died. And so they're crying, and again, even though we know they're not dead because it's a fucking G-rated film, it's still sad. But don't worry, they're alive. Yay, everybody. We're so sorry because we accidentally destroyed your memory book of all the great things you did, and Piglet's feeling really down about himself and is like, I've never done anything great. And they're like, hold on, let's show you. And they go back to Piglet's house and they show him that they've just covered the walls and every surface with drawings they've done commemorating all the great things Piglet did. And then they go out to Pooh Corner and they put up a new sign renaming it Pooh and Piglet Corner. Then the credits cut in, and there's been this original score the whole time with this woman singing all these original songs, and one of them's like a real banger. So it's revealed who the voice was of those songs during the credits for this little campy music video. It's Carly Simon.
Few good friends and a
stick or two. A house is built at a corner called Pooh.
Then in 2004, very next year, we get our third Winnie the Pooh movie to focus more on another character. We get Springtime with Roo. Honestly, this kind of feels to me like a more rabbit-centric movie, and I honestly didn't like it that much at all. It is a Easter-themed reimagining of A Christmas Carol, and Rabbit is a stand-in for Scrooge. 2005, we've reached a big mark on the timeline of Pooh. Pooh's Heffalump movie. This is the first time since the Pooh movies took to screen in 1977. First time like a fleshed out, completely original, reoccurring character arrives, and that is Lumpy the Heffalump. And the Heffalump movie is an allegory for racism. Who is narrating this movie? Not the narrator. And also, Christopher Robin's not in this. Christopher Robin also wasn't in Springtime with Roo. They kind of stopped writing him into the movies for a bit, and I guess it's like Christopher Robin got sick of their shit and was like, you know what? You handle yourselves. Pooh's telling us about the day that the stranger came into the 100-acre wood. So it turns out there's a fucking fence on the outskirts of the 100-acre wood that leads into Heffalump Hollow. And so in this, the Heffalumps are canonically real things that everyone's afraid of in the 100-acre wood because Rabbit is spewing prejudice stereotypes. And they're like, well, we're gonna go on a Heffalump expedition. And Roo wants to come. And they're like, Roo, you're too small. Roo's like, I'll go on my own Heffalump expedition. I'll catch a Heffalump to prove to everyone that I'm a man. Roo goes into Heffalump Hollow and he meets the Heffalump Lumpy. Lumpy is, I would say, annoying. Roo catches Lumpy by literally lassoing a string around Lumpy's neck like a really violent leash of sorts, and Lumpy thinks they're playing, so Lumpy like literally dives right into it and is like, yay! But like is not understanding the insidious nature of what Roo's doing because Roo is a child that is being raised to hate. Roo convinces Lumpy to come back with him to the 100-acre wood to show everyone that he's just like so tough and cool because he got a Heffalump. They get to the fence that, you know, divides these people, that segregates them, and Lumpy's afraid to go in, and Lumpy starts sharing the prejudice stereotypes he's been raised on about like Pooh and Tigger and Rabbit, and Roo's like, that's silly, that's not how everyone is. Who told you that? And Lumpy's like, everyone knows that, but like Roo had just been told by Rabbit that like everyone knows Heffalumps are like fucked. So yeah, you're seeing the parallels there. But Roo convinces Lumpy that they should just go in there and vibe. Also, Lumpy's like struggling with trying to find like his trumpeting sound the whole time because it keeps sounding like shit, but that's whatever. And so they go to everybody's house and nobody's there because obviously everybody else is out hunting Heffalumps. And in doing so, because Lumpy got that big fat ass, they accidentally knock over all of Pooh's honey pots. They then are like playing a game in Rabbit's garden and fuck up the garden and hitherto and hither that. Lumpy is then really sad and wants his mom. And Roo's like, you know what? I'll help you find your mom. So they head on back to Heffalump Hollow. Meanwhile, the gang has failed their Heffalump hunting expedition. They come back. They see the honey pots a mess. They see Rabbit's garden a mess. They see the big footprints. They're like, the Heffalump is upon us. So they're more incensed than ever to go out and find this Heffalump, which is actually a traumatized child. They make a cage and then they lay a trap and they trap Lumpy in the cage. And Lumpy's just sitting in there sobbing because he's like, wow, you said they weren't scary and they're fucking awful and they're committing hate crimes. And Roo's like, shit. Roo helps Lumpy escape. Roo falls into like a weird sinkhole nest of branches, and then Lumpy tries to go in there and save them, but it's not working. But don't worry, Lumpy's mom that Lumpy couldn't find earlier, she shows up, and her and Kanga, the moms, they help. And then Roo's like, listen up everybody, prejudice is wrong. And Rabbit still is trying to tell Roo to shut up, but no worries, because Kanga basically tells Rabbit to fuck off. And then Pooh, as the narrator, pops back in and it's like, and then, you know, that's how Lumpy actually found us. 2005, we then get Pooh's Heffalump Halloween movie, which is a little more tolerable than Boo to You, Winnie the Pooh, for the first few minutes. And then it just becomes a previously on, and it's just a fucking recap.
I haven't thought of anything, have you?
So then in 2006, the very next year, another big development in the timeline of Pooh, Winnie the Pooh gets a star on the Walk of Fame.
What a lovely picnic. back.
2011, some big things happened. The Guardian called Winnie the Pooh the most famous bear in literary history, and a poll saw him voted onto the list of top 100 icons of England. And the 2011 film Winnie the Pooh comes out, and it has a theatrical release featuring the theme song sung by Zooey Deschanel. Also edit the theme song a little bit to include Tigger's name in it, because when the theme song was first created, since they were kind of like basing it off the first book, and Tigger's not like in the first book, he's not in the theme song. And so I'm glad they remedied that. I remember dragging my friends to see this with me my junior year of high school, and they were like, why are we going to see a Winnie the Pooh movie? And I'm like, because it's gonna be artistry. And it is. This is another really good Winnie the Pooh movie, especially if you want a jumping in point. It kind of takes and reinvents it. It's kind of like a requel, if you will, because they're not directly remaking the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, but it's not like we're continuing the canon of events that has led up to this, because we're kind of like starting over. And so again, it takes some more vignette things that happen in various chapters in the first two Winnie the Pooh books. So Pooh's running out of honey. He goes see if Eeyore has honey. Eeyore has lost his tail. So they're like, we need to find Eeyore's tail. They go to Owl. And Owl has a weird doorbell ringer thing that you tug on. Remember that for later. And they're like, we can't find Eeyore's tail. And I was like, you need to offer an award. And there's like a lot of really funny dialogue in this that, again, a lot of the jokes they took directly from the books.
The thing to do is as follows. First, issue a reward to the... I beg your pardon?
Well, you sneezed just as you were going to tell me what the first thing to do was.
I didn't sneeze.
Oh, you did, Owl.
No, I didn't. You can't sneeze without knowing it.
Well, you can't know it without something having been sneezed.
As I was saying, first, issue a reward.
He's doing it again. You must be catching a cold.
I'll probably catch it too.
No, no, no! I'm not catching a cold. The word is issue, not at you. And at you isn't even a word. It's just a sort of sneezy sound, like a chew.
Perhaps you should lie down, Owl.
And it's just excellent. If you're like, Molly, you didn't cover all this when you did the books. There's a lot of fucking little vignettes in the books, and I didn't want to like go in detail into every vignette and then end up spoiling what gets done in all the movies. And there's just like a lot of content here, guys. So then Christopher Robin holds a contest to find a new thing to beat Eeyore's tail, and the reward is a pot of honey. But everyone has the dumbest shit, like a cuckoo clock, a balloon, and everybody but Pooh keeps winning the pot of honey, which is like kind of fucked because Pooh's the only one who likes honey. And again, begs the question, where does Pooh even get the honey from? Pooh goes to Christopher Robin's house later to see about that honey, and Christopher Robin's gone, and there's a note, he's gone, back soon. And then we kind of again are referencing the Adventure to Find Christopher Robin movie, because they go to Owl, and Owl's like, oh my god, he's missing, and he's been caught by a monster called the Baxen. They sing a song about how the Baxen got him, and they gotta go find him. They gotta go on an expedition to save Christopher Robin. They try to set a trap for the monster. They dig this big pit. Eeyore runs into Tigger and is like, the group went off without me, and Tigger's like, oh my god, that's fucked up. I will travel around with you. But Tigger is a little too high energy for Eeyore, and Eeyore is getting stressed out. Pooh deviates from the group to go on that honey quest, and he ends up falling in the Baxen trap that they made in the deep pit. Eeyore hides from Tigger in a river, and then he finds an anchor, and he tries to use that as a tail, but that's not a great idea. Then Rabbit has the idea to use that anchor to try to get Pooh out of the pit, but they fuck up, and everybody but Piglet falls in the pit. Then cue the really funny "Can you not" joke.
Tie them together, Piglet. Can you tie a knot?
I cannot.
Ah, so you cannot.
No, I cannot not.
Not?
Who's there?
Pooh?
Pooh who?
No, Pooh with Piglet, you'll need more than 2 knots.
Not possible.
Ah, so it is possible to knot those pieces.
Not these pieces.
Yes, not those pieces.
Why not?
'Cause it's all for naught.
Oh, dear.
Piglet goes to get help, runs into Tigger dressed in drag like the monster, and is terrified and races back. In doing so, some of the letters on the page of this storybook in which the characters exist gets knocked into the pit. They're able to build a ladder and get out of there. Still wanting honey, Pooh heads to Owl's house to see if he has any, realizes that Owl's doorbell ringer is in fact Eeyore's missing tail, brings it back to Eeyore. Christopher Robin declares that that is obviously the best tail because it just is his tail, and he finally rewards Pooh with the pot of honey.
Give Christopher Robin back.
Then in 2018, we have what is, in my opinion, the biggest, most recent event in the timeline of Pooh, the live-action film Christopher Robin starring Ewan McGregor and Hayley Atwell, and of course including Jim Cummings still as the voice of Tigger and Winnie the Pooh. So the live-action film begins with the young Christopher Robin vibing with everyone in 100 Acre Wood and letting them know that he is going away to boarding school, but he promises he won't forget them. In a shocking twist of events, he grows up and he does forget them because he goes into World War II and he gets a little traumatized. He becomes obsessed at being good for business and becomes that stereotypically absentee father who neglects his wife and his daughter for business, business, business.
Business, business, business. Numbers. Is this working? Yes.
Yay! He works for a luggage company. The present timeline with adult Christopher Robin, he's supposed to be going on holiday for the weekend with his wife and his daughter, and his boss is like, too fucking bad because we gotta make all these budget cuts and we're probably gonna have to just fire a bunch of people. And Christopher Robin doesn't want to do that, so he's gonna spend the entire weekend figuring out how to do this. Obviously his wife and daughter are not happy about this, and they go to the country without him. In the 100 Acre Wood, Pooh can't find any of his friends, so he decides he's gonna go find Christopher Robin. The way to and from the 100 Acre Wood in this is a magical portal through a tree. So Pooh heads through the tree, and instead of letting out at the tree in the countryside house where Christopher Robin grew up, where his wife and daughter currently are, it lets out into the park across the street from adult Christopher Robin's house in London. Christopher Robin is in that park, stressed as fuck about what to do, and runs into Pooh. And Pooh is like, thank God I ran into you. Pooh immediately recognizes him. He would know him anywhere and is like, I need your help. Christopher Robin doesn't really want to help because he's like, business, business, business. And he decides he will take Pooh back to the country, get him back to the 100 Acre Wood, and then Godspeed, he's on his own. Madeline finds at the country house, staying in childhood Christopher Robin's room, his drawings of all his friends in the 100 Acre Wood. They're honestly not very good drawings. They're kind of shit, but you know, whatever. She also finds out that her dad wants to send her to boarding school soon, and she's pretty bummed about that. She also just like doesn't know how to play and have fun because she has been raised by business, business, business. Christopher Robin. We then have just a very funny like buddy comedy between Pooh and adult Christopher Robin as they journey to get back to the 100 Acre Wood. They get in there and Christopher Robin even goes through the tree with Pooh and he still doesn't want to help him. But then Pooh goes missing and Christopher Robin then has to go find everybody else before they can find Pooh, and Christopher Robin finally leans into his inner child and he plays again and he reunites everybody, and then he and Pooh take a nap by their favorite log where they used to sit and chat when Christopher was a child. But then Christopher wakes up the next day and is like, oh my God, I'm late for work and I gotta get these reports in. And he still hasn't really figured out how to do the budget cuts without firing everyone. The gang shows up and is like, here's your briefcase. Don't worry, it has all your things in it that you brought with you, i.e. the reports. He's like, great, see y'all later. He dips out. He tries to sneak out past the country house without his wife seeing him because that's a very weird explanation to have. But she sees him and she's like, what the fuck? And obviously he can't really explain because what on earth is he going to say? Sorry, I had to help these stuffed animals I thought were like fictitious from my childhood that I loved into existence in a magical other realm. Yeah, that's not really gonna track. He's booking it back to London. He's so lonely because now Pooh's not there to keep him company with his whimsy. His wife is like, tells the daughter, Madeline, like, you know what, go out and play. You should have fun and play. Madeline doesn't fucking know how to play. Cut back the 100 Acre Wood and everybody learns that Tigger took all the reports out of the briefcase to make room for special things to remember them by, like sticks from playing Pooh sticks and leaves and such like that. And they're like, holy fuck, we gotta get these reports back. So the gang, Eeyore, Tigger, Pooh, and Piglet, Rabbit and Kanga and Roo don't go, and Owl don't go, who fucking cares? They go through to get to London because Pooh's like, I know the way back to his business, we can get there. They come upon Madeline. She's freaked out at first, but then she realizes they are the characters from her father's drawings, and she's like, oh my God, his imaginary friends are real. And she says, don't worry, I can get you to London. Leaves her mom a note that she's gone to London. She rides off on her bike to the train station. And because back in the day, kids were just wandering about, no one really questions why this like 10, 11-year-old girl with her 4 stuffed animals is getting on a train by herself. Obviously, the mom finds the note and is like, oh my fucking God, and takes off after her daughter. Christopher Robin is coming into the meeting and sees, oh, he doesn't have his fucking reports. He just has like sticks and shit. Madeline is going on like fun, goofy adventures with the gang. gang to try and get there on time. Then the gang gets split up. Eeyore, Piglet, and Tigger get separated from Madeline and Pooh. They're like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? Evelyn shows up at Christopher Robin's work and is like, it's an emergency, I can't find Madeline. He's finally like, you know what, my daughter and my wife and their safety and their love is more important than the meeting, so fuck the meeting, he leaves. They check his briefcase because they're like, well, maybe the reports are in here, and they see all the sticks and stuff, and they're like, oh, Robin's gone crazy, got it. They're out in the car, and his wife Evelyn is like, tell me what's going on. So he tells her the truth about Winnie the Pooh and everyone from the 100-Acre Wood. Understandably, she thinks he's lost it, but just then, Eeyore, Tigger, and Piglet slam against the windshield while they're driving, and obviously Evelyn's like, what the fuck? But they get in the car and they're off to find Madeline and Pooh. Madeline and Pooh, they have the reports, they're running up to the building, they trip and fall and they lose the reports in the air right as Christopher Robin, Evelyn, Eeyore, Tigger, and Piglet pull up. They come up, they're like, you know what, fuck it, the reports don't matter. But then the one piece of paper that they were able to salvage, Christopher Robin realizes something amazing. He rushes back in with everybody in co and says that if they actually start charging less for their luggage, they'll have even more customers, and if they give like the staff vacation days, they'll buy luggage. Associate boss was trying to take credit for the reports when he thought Christopher Robin had different reports written up. They found the sticks in the bag. They were like, oh, well, don't you know it was on the reports? And obviously he doesn't know jack shit because he took the weekend off and made Christopher Robin do all the work. And then the big boss is like, dude, what the hell? You didn't actually do the reports? And Christopher Robin is pitching his new plan to make everything more affordable and give the staff more vacation days really hard. He's like, no, it's gonna be good. He calls the slacking asshole boss taking credit for his work a woozle. Everything pans out at work, and he takes his family on vacation in the 100-Acre Wood, and everybody lives happily ever after. It's a really good film, and fun fact is Jim Cummings said it is one of his favorite Winnie the Pooh projects he's ever done, and that he worked on it during a really difficult time in his life where he was going through like a very messy, abusive divorce, and he said it was really hard, things in court, and then you know, he would go film Christopher Robin.
I was making Christopher Robin at the time, and you know, you go to the courthouse, and it's all straightforward, and it's all this, that, and everything, and it's very, very taxing.
Yeah.
And then I would leave there, and go to 100-Acre Wood.
Yeah.
You know, there's no other way to put it, and you know, and spend hours and hours making Pooh and Tigger come to life and Christopher Robin. And I have to say that it's Winnie the Pooh can save you.
Yeah.
That's all.
He also talked about how magical it was to get to see the real-life practical effect dolls they made for Pooh and all the 100-Acre Wood characters, and how special it was to see the thing that he had been voicing all these years, you know, because obviously he's been to like the Disney parks and seen the characters in the big costume, but to see like a recreation of what Pooh actually would be if this all were to be real. And he talked about how magical that was.
Oh, Pooh, you went back for the honey, didn't you?
2021, a Winnie the Pooh stage musical got made. And it didn't run long, and I understand, because look at it. 2023, a new show came out on Disney Plus called Playdate with Pooh. You know, it's very much made for preschoolers. Jim Cummings is not even the voice of Pooh. I didn't watch a single episode because I can only go so far and do so much. In 2023 and 2024, some bullshit films came out. You've probably heard of them. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1 and 2. I considered watching it for this, and then I was like, no, I can't. I respect myself too much. There are Winnie the Pooh erotic novels. Yeah. One of them is a dark mafia. Winnie the Pooh. No hate to my fellow romance authors, but I feel like it gets to a point. Let's see how much Winnie the Pooh fan fiction there is. We're gonna look on AO3 because we're classy. Only 406 works under Winnie the Pooh, and I personally think that should be remedied. What's going on in the present day of all things Winnie the Pooh? Well, according to IMDb, Winnie Pooh is getting a prequel film by Baboon Animation. When that is coming, to be announced. Some other fun facts about Winnie the Pooh for you. I've made a little list here. There is an Estonian metal band called Winnie Pooh. There is a street named after Winnie the Pooh in both Warsaw and Budapest. There is a Canadian pop rock band called Edward Bear. This one, let me read this off here. China has an issue with Pooh due to social media comparisons in 2017 of Pooh to Paramount leader and general secretary of the Communist Party, Xi Jinping. There is an unauthorized Soviet adaptation of Winnie the Pooh. 100 Acre Wood was inspired by Ashwood Forest, where real-life young Christopher Robin played. IRL, Christopher Robin hated Winnie the Pooh because men don't know how to experience joy, apparently. He said, and I quote, "It seemed to me almost that my father had got to where he was by climbing upon my infant shoulders, that he had filched from me my good name and had left me with nothing but the empty fame of being his son." Dude, shut the fuck up. Were people stopping you in the street to be like, oh my god, you're Christopher Robin? No. Also, were you going by the full name Christopher Robin? Just go by Christopher then. Who the fuck's gonna know? Acting like back then, like this wasn't the era of book talk. It's not even like people were stopping A.A. Milne and being like, oh my god, it's you. Shut up. They eventually became estranged. Maybe A.A. Milne just like sucked in real life as a dad, and that's part of it. But the idea, if we're to be believed just on this information, that Christopher Robin didn't like him because he wrote stories based off of his son playing with his stuffed animals. It's not like he plagiarized his life. His son played with stuffed animals and he was like, okay, we'll just write a cute book about a kid with his stuffed animals that he loved into existence. And they go on fun little adventures. Am I supposed to believe that he was stalking young Christopher Robin around Ashwood Forest as Christopher Robin acted out verbatim situations that we then see play out in the novels? Like, was Christopher Robin out there with his stuffed animals acting out the house at Pooh Corner, and adult A.A. Milne is just hiding in a bush? Like, yes, write that down, write that down. There is a Pooh statue in Leiderdorp, Netherlands. This is a really fun fact I like. Winnie the Pooh has often been taught in early childhood education to teach children empathy, imagination, and the importance of play. According to Medium, a poll cast in 2014, over 200 adults said Winnie the Pooh was one of their most beloved children's book of all time, and many adults talked about still revisiting it. And you can see online many Winnie the Pooh content specific creators like Blake Silva, for example. Overall, what is the significance, cultural impact of Winnie the Pooh? Winnie the Pooh is, I think, in my opinion, just a very beautiful, wholesome story. It is just about love and compassion and community, imagination, the importance of play. He loves deeply. He also has hard times and shows good ways to like cope and communicate with your loved ones and ask for help instead of forcing yourself to bear the burden. He also prioritizes self-care and rest, which is nice to remind ourselves of in grind, hustle, capitalist hellscape. At the end of the day, it's just such a wholesome story, a beautiful universe where it takes everyday life and makes it magical and whimsical and beautiful in ways that we don't always think to look about it. I think it's really beautiful that something so simple and small was able to blossom and bloom into this massive franchise. It's just been a true pleasure. It has just been so beautiful to consume and analyze and research everything about Winnie the Pooh. That is it for this video today. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you give this video a like, share it around, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other content on TikTok and Instagram and my books. I am a romance author and poet. I hope you have a magical rest of your week. I will see you soon with another video. Bye!